Welcome everyone, and get ready to dive into one of the most fascinating and exciting stories in the world of coin collecting, where a small and ordinary looking coin, the 1969 D1 cent, can turn out to be worth an unbelievable fortune of $11 million because of its errors, mistakes, and unique circumstances that make it so valuable. And today we are going to take a deep journey into the history, minting process, the kinds of errors, and the reasons why such a tiny coin with a face value of just 1 cent can reach the heights of millions at auction, capturing the imagination of collectors, investors, and history lovers alike. And as we go deeper into this journey, you will learn not only about the coin itself, but also about the fascinating world of minting errors and the way human mistakes and machine flaws can create treasures hidden in plain sight. So sit tight, and let's get into the story of how this 1969 D penny became one of the most expensive coins ever known, and why it continues to be chased after today by those who hope to find one in circulation or hidden away in an old jar of coins passed down from grandparents or stored in attics and basements. Because sometimes history has a way of sneaking up in unexpected places, and when it comes to coins, the details matter more than you think. Now, the 1969 penny is an important coin in American numismatic history because it was struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce billions of coins to keep up with the growing economy, and with that massive demand, errors were almost inevitable, especially at the Denver Mint, where millions of these coins were struck with a D mint mark, and most of them were ordinary and worth only a cent. But a few rare mistakes turned into million-dollar rarities, and that is where the story of the 1969 D1 cent worth $11 million begins. First, we must understand how coins are made. A coin starts with a blank planchet, a small metal disc, which goes through the minting press where dies strike both sides of it to imprint the design. But if the dies are flawed, misaligned, doubled, or if the planchet itself is defective, the resulting coin can come out with unusual features that collectors call errors, and errors are what make this 1969 D cent such an extraordinary piece. One of the most famous errors associated with the 1969 penny is the double die, where the die itself has been improperly manufactured so that when it strikes the coin, the details appear doubled, creating a ghostly or shadow-like effect on the letters and numbers, especially visible in words like Liberty and In God We Trust, as well as the date. And when such a double die occurs, it can create one of the most desirable error coins in history. And indeed, one of the 1969 pennies with such doubling was discovered and authenticated, leading to enormous excitement among collectors. And when you add the Denver Mint mark to this story, things get even more interesting, because Denver was known for high-speed production and less careful quality control compared to other mints. So the chances of missed strikes, off-center strikes, die clashes, planchet flaws, and doubling errors were higher, which makes the 1969 D penny a goldmine for error hunters. And when a coin combines a rare doubling error with other unique features, it becomes one of a kind, which is exactly why the 1969 D penny could command such an astronomical value, because rarity and uniqueness are the driving forces in numismatics. Collectors want what no one else can have, and investors pay top dollar to secure coins that are truly once-in-a-lifetime finds. So how does a coin like this end up costing $11 million? The answer lies in both its rarity and the demand among wealthy collectors. If only a handful of specimens exist, especially in high grades with minimal wear, then bidding wars can escalate prices to unbelievable levels. Auctions have shown time and time again that when rarity, beauty, and historical significance come together, collectors will pay millions, and that's exactly what happened with this coin. Now let's explore the kinds of errors that could exist on a 1969 D cent that make it so valuable. One of them is the classic double die obverse, which, as we said, makes the date and inscriptions look doubled. Another possible error is an off-center strike where the coin design is not properly centered, leaving part of the blank planchet visible. Another error could be a die clash, where the dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly images of the reverse on the obverse or vice versa. Then, there are broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its rim, creating a stretched or flattened look. Sometimes planchets are clipped, leaving crescent-shaped missing parts on the coin. Sometimes wrong planchets are fed into the press, creating coins struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or foreign planchets. And in the chaos of the mint, anything is possible. And when such spectacular errors happen on a coin from a significant year like 1969 with the Denver mint mark, collectors lose their minds over the rarity. The coin we are talking about, valued at $11 million, is not just any error coin. It represents the pinnacle of rarity and desirability. A coin that combines doubling, mint mark uniqueness, historical context, and pristine condition. And when experts grade a coin like this at the top of the scale, such as MS65 or higher, the value skyrockets even further, because not only is it rare, it is also beautifully preserved, as if it just came off the minting press yesterday, untouched by circulation, making it a museum-worthy piece. And speaking of museums, some of the most valuable coins in the world are not even for sale, but kept in national collections. And yet, when one does appear at auction, it sends shockwaves through the hobby, drawing worldwide attention. Now let's think about why people are willing to pay millions for a penny. The reason is not just the coin itself, but what it represents. It is history frozen in metal, a tangible link to the past, and the idea that you could have a fortune hiding in your pocket change makes the story even more magical. It fuels the imagination of millions of people who start checking their own coins, hoping to stumble across a treasure. And indeed, stories abound of people finding rare coins in circulation or in old family jars, turning a few cents into a life-changing discovery. So every time you look at a 1969 penny, think carefully, check the date, check the mint mark, look for doubling in the letters and numbers, examine the edges, and if you suspect it might be special, have it checked by experts, because who knows, you might be holding the next multi-million-dollar rarity. And beyond errors, there are also varieties, slight changes in design details that the mint introduced over time, and these varieties can also become collectible. The 1969 era was full of experimentation, shifting designs, and varying die states, and that adds another layer of complexity and excitement to coins from this year. Collectors love to study the tiniest differences, and when those differences combine with spectacular minting mistakes, the result is breathtaking. As we imagine the story of this 1969 penny worth $11 million, it is important to remember that only a tiny fraction of coins ever produced become this valuable, but the dream of finding one keeps people searching, and that is part of the charm of numismatics. It is not just about buying and selling coins, it is about the thrill of discovery, the hunt for treasure, the connection to history, and the joy of holding something rare and unique in your hand. Think about the journey of this penny, from the minting presses of Denver in 1969, through possible decades of circulation or safekeeping, through the hands of collectors and dealers, until finally it lands in an auction house where wealthy collectors battle each other to claim it, driving the price into the stratosphere until it reaches that incredible $11 million mark. And with each sale, the legend of the coin grows, inspiring future generations to keep searching, keep collecting, and keep appreciating the artistry and the human stories behind every coin. And that is why this story is so compelling, because it reminds us that even the smallest objects can hold the greatest value when history, rarity, and human passion come together. So next time you get a handful of change, take a closer look, because that ordinary-looking penny might not be so ordinary after all. It could be the key to unimaginable fortune and the centerpiece of a story that will be told for years to come. And that is the wonder of the 1969 1 cent, a coin whose errors turned it into an $11 million legend. Next, 2014 1 cent USA coin. Today we are diving into the remarkable story of the 2014 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, auction houses, and the numismatic community. by being valued at an astounding $4 million, not because of its tiny face value of just 1 cent, but because of the extraordinary mint errors, anomalies, and unusual production mishaps that transformed this humble penny into one of the most sought-after rarities of modern times. And the story of why this coin is worth millions is one that combines history, minting technology, human error, rarity, collector psychology, and the unstoppable demand for unique treasures. So get ready as we explore the thrilling world of how a coin that should be common pocket change from Denver Mint's massive 2014 production run can rise above the billions of ordinary cents and stand out as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth more than houses, cars, and even small fortunes. And the journey begins with understanding that the Denver Mint in 2014 struck billions of pennies primarily from copper-plated zinc planchets, but with such large-scale production the potential for rare mistakes always lingers, and those mistakes often sneak through unnoticed and escape into circulation where only the most careful eyes can detect them. And among the most exciting errors for 2014 D pennies are double dies, where the coin die is improperly hugged and details, like the date, the mint mark D, the motto "I in God we trust," liberty, or the words United States of America appear with striking doubling that collectors crave, because doubling adds both visual appeal and extreme rarity, and the stronger and bolder the doubling the more valuable the coin becomes. And in some 2014 D cents reports of doubling on the Lincoln portrait, particularly on the eye or ear, have generated huge excitement, since double die obverse and reverse coins are historically among the most valuable in the hobby. And another dramatic category of error is the off-center strike, where the coin design is shifted and part of it is missing, creating a visually stunning and unmistakable rarity, especially when the off-center percentage is extreme yet still shows a visible date and mint mark, which collectors demand to authenticate the error. And an off-center strike combined with a clean, bright surface can skyrocket a coin's desirability. And then we also have broad strikes where the collar fails to contain the coin properly, leading to a stretched and distorted look and wrong planchet. Strikes where a Lincoln cent design is mistakenly struck on a blank mint for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, and imagine the shock of discovering a 2014 D penny struck on a dime planchet, making it lighter and smaller yet bearing Lincoln's design in miniature fashion, or perhaps a cent struck on a nickel planchet appearing silvery and heavier than normal. Such wrong planchet errors have always been the holy grail of modern minting mistakes, and when tied to a specific year like 2014 they achieve unbelievable value because they are so rare. And transitional errors add another layer of mystery, because although 2014 did not involve a composition change, sometimes leftover blanks from previous years or test planchets get struck with new designs, and these oddities generate intense bidding wars among advanced collectors who understand just how nearly impossible such a piece would be to find. And then we come to die breaks, die chips, and cuts, which may sound minor, but when dramatic, they transform into showpieces of error collecting, because raised blobs of extra metal can appear on Lincoln's face, beard, lettering, or even forming shapes that collectors nickname and chase, with the most extreme examples bringing thousands, and when multiplied across a dramatic 2014 D cent in mint state condition, the value climbs higher and higher. And we cannot forget multiple strikes where a coin is struck more than once, leading to ghostly overlapping images, or rotated dies where the reverse does not align properly with the obverse, sometimes at 90 degrees or even 180 degrees. And these eye-catching errors are instantly obvious and treasured by collectors who recognize their rarity. And clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing due to an improperly cut blank add even more variety to the error pool, with curved or straight clips, making the coin look dramatically different from normal cents and enhancing desirability. And when you imagine a coin combining more than one error, such as a double die that is also off-center on a wrong planchet, then you start to understand why collectors would bid into the millions. because such unique combinations mean there may only be a single known example in the entire world, and that level of exclusivity is exactly what drives the astronomical price tags we see in auctions where passionate collectors compete fiercely for bragging rights and ownership of something no one else has. And when the spotlight shines on a coin like the 2014 D penny that reached a value of $4 million, it is not just about the copper-plated zinc, but about the once-in-a-generation chance to hold an impossible minting mistake in your hand. A tangible reminder of how even in a modern era with advanced technology, the mint is still fallible and capable of producing wonders by accident. And this realization fuels the imagination of collectors everywhere, because it means that such coins might still be hiding in circulation, waiting to be found by a lucky individual checking their pocket change, their piggy bank, or their coin rolls from the bank. And the stories of discovery only add more fire to the hunt as we hear of ordinary people who stumbled across coins worth thousands or even millions in their spare change and suddenly found themselves propelled into the spotlight of the numismatic world. And for the 2014 D penny valued at $4 million, the auction houses that handle these rarities often report bidding wars that start at hundreds of thousands and quickly escalate as determined buyers compete to secure the treasure. And this dynamic highlights the psychology of collecting, where owning something rare is not just about investment, but about prestige, storytelling, and connection to history. And what better history than a coin representing both a blunder and a miracle of minting? One that never should have existed yet somehow slipped past all quality checks and survived in pristine condition. And the role of condition itself cannot be overstated, because a coin of such rarity in uncirculated mint state condition with perfect luster and nowhere is infinitely more valuable than a worn example. So when you combine rarity of error with high-grade preservation, the price multiplier is staggering, and explains how values leap into the millions, and why the 2014 D penny became a headline-grabbing $4 million marvel. And this sparks curiosity across the globe, because people realize that even a coin barely a decade old can become a legendary collectible, and that opportunity might still be out there waiting for the next careful eye. So the lesson is always check your change, learn the signs of major errors, and never assume a penny is just a penny, because as we see from this story, a single cent can change lives. And this chase is what keeps coin collecting alive and thrilling, because there is always that possibility that the next coin you hold could be the next record breaker, the next six-figure or even seven-figure rarity. And the 2014 D penny reminds us that modern coins can be just as valuable as older classics when the right combination of mistakes occur. So keep your eyes open for doubling, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, die breaks, multiple strikes, rotated dies, and anything unusual, because those tiny differences can be worth millions. And as we close out this deep dive into the incredible $4,000,2014 D penny, remember that every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth fortunes. So stay curious, keep searching, and always treasure the details, because they could turn out to be priceless. And if you enjoyed this amazing journey into the hidden value of coins, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, so you never miss another chance to learn about the treasures hiding in plain sight in the world of numismatics. Next, 2005 D Lincoln penny. Today, we will unravel the astonishing story of the 2005 D Lincoln 1-cent coin that under ordinary circumstances is just a simple penny most of us overlook and spend without a second thought, but under extraordinary circumstances due to rare minting errors and mistakes transforms into a multi-million-dollar treasure that has been valued as high as $6 million, making it one of the most captivating stories in the world of numismatics, and a true reminder that small details can create unimaginable wealth. This coin, minted in Denver in 2005, is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, which has been in continuous production since 1909, and is one of the most familiar coins in circulation. But what makes this specific date and mint mark combination so special is not its ordinary design, which features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but rather the presence of unique and shocking errors that slip through the minting process unnoticed and into the hands of lucky collectors. When we talk about errors and mistakes on the 2005 penny, we are diving into a variety of possibilities, each capable of elevating the coin from common change into a life-changing artifact. One of the most dramatic errors seen on these coins is the double die variety, which occurs when the die used to strike the design receives more than one impression from the hub, but slightly misaligned. This creates doubling in the inscriptions, such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 2005 itself, and sharp bold doubling is highly coveted because it shows up easily to the naked eye, making it instantly recognizable even to casual observers. Certain examples of 2005 pennies with dramatic doubling have been authenticated, and they already command huge sums. But when you pair doubling with other mistakes, the rarity skyrockets, and collectors start throwing million-dollar bids at auctions. Another highly valuable error on this coin is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet is not seated correctly between the dies, causing the design to be struck off to one side. Off-center strikes that are minor are common and may only be worth a few dollars, but when the strike is 50% or more off-center yet still shows the date and mint mark, those examples become extremely rare and desirable. Now imagine finding a 2005 penny that is 60% off-center with a bold double die on the obverse. That combination of errors could easily justify a valuation of several $1,000,000. Then we also have the missing clad layer or lamination error possibilities. Even though pennies after 1982 were made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, errors can still occur where the plating bubbles, peels, or completely fails to cover sections of the coin, exposing the silvery zinc core underneath. These dramatic appearances make such coins instantly stand out, and collectors are fascinated by their odd look. A 2005 penny, missing most of its copper layer, but also displaying doubling, or a major strike-through error, could easily be considered one of a kind, and therefore worth an astronomical figure. Die cracks and die breaks are also common sources of rarity. When dies used to strike millions of coins begin to wear, they develop fractures and imperfections which leave raised lines or blobs on the coin surface. Sometimes these are small hairline cracks, but in other cases, they create huge dramatic shapes across Lincoln's face or the reverse memorial columns. These dramatic die breaks are called cuds, and they are extremely collectible. If you were to discover a 2005 penny with a massive cut obliterating part of Lincoln's portrait yet retaining the date and mint mark, you could very well be holding a multi-million-dollar rarity. Strike-through errors are another fascinating category, where foreign materials such as grease, cloth, or even fragments of another coin get struck into the planchet along with the design, leaving strange impressions or blank areas on the coin. Collectors love these because each one is unique and tells a story about what went wrong during production. The 2005 pennies with dramatic strike-throughs, especially if the foreign material is still partially embedded in the coin, are considered once-in-a-lifetime finds. Double strikes or multiple strikes are yet another valuable mistake, where the coin is struck more than once by the dies, resulting in overlapping images, partial rotations, or ghost-like shadows of Lincoln's portrait or the memorial. These can be incredibly dramatic and instantly appealing. One 2005 penny showing a double strike with a 40% rotation could easily cross into the $1,000,000 range at auction. Let's not forget about wrong planchet errors, which occur when a blank mint for another denomination or even a foreign coin accidentally finds its way into the press and gets struck with the Lincoln said design. Imagine a 2005 penny struck on a dime planchet, making it smaller, lighter, and the design partially cut off. Such mistakes are extremely rare and command huge premiums. Even more dramatic would be if a 2005 penny was struck on a steel or experimental composition planchet, which occasionally happened at the mint. These rarities would instantly become legendary among collectors and justify valuations of several $1,000,000. Now the reason why such coins are worth so much is not just the error itself but the combination of rarity, high appeal, demand, and the competition among wealthy collectors and investors. When a unique or nearly unique coin comes to auction, it sparks bidding wars that drive prices into the stratosphere. Owning such a coin is not just about numismatic passion, but also about prestige, history, and the thrill of possessing something no one else has. The 2005 penny worth $6 million represents the dream for many collectors because it shows how a tiny mistake at the mint can change a coin's destiny forever. It is worth noting that 2005 was a high production year at the Denver Mint where billions of pennies were struck at high speeds and under intense pressure, making the likelihood of minor errors much higher. However, only a handful of dramatic errors escaped quality control and entered circulation, which is why they are so rare today. Many of them likely went unnoticed for years, passing from hand to hand in pocket change until one sharp-eyed individual spotted the anomaly and realized its potential. That thrill of discovery is what drives so many hobbyists to carefully examine every penny they come across, because lightning does strike and incredible treasures are still being found. Imagine the excitement of buying a roll of pennies from the bank and discovering a 2005 with a massive off-center double strike. Suddenly, that ordinary roll becomes a multi-million-dollar windfall. Collectors also appreciate that these errors are physical evidence of the minting process itself. They tell stories about the machinery, the pressure, the human oversight, and the accidents that slip through. Every error coin is like a fingerprint of history, reminding us that perfection is impossible, and sometimes imperfection is more valuable than the intended result. When we analyze auction results, we see that rare error pennies often sell for six figures and beyond, but when a coin is unique or has multiple dramatic errors combined, the value can leap into the millions. The $6 million valuation for the 2005 penny is not just a fantasy but a reflection of the real market dynamics, where demand exceeds supply and wealthy collectors will pay whatever it takes to secure a legendary piece. What makes the 2005 penny especially fascinating is that it belongs to the modern era of coinage, a time when errors are supposed to be caught and destroyed by the mint before reaching circulation. So when a dramatic error coin from 2005 surfaces, it shocks the numismatic world because it is not supposed to exist. That contradiction makes it even more desirable. People love owning things that should not exist. So the story of this coin is also the story of human oversight and the reality that even in a highly controlled environment, mistakes happen. Sometimes those mistakes create history. As we reflect on the journey of the 2005 penny from an ordinary copper-plated zinc coin worth 1 cent to a priceless treasure worth $6 million, we realize that numismatics is not just about collecting coins, but about discovering stories, about connecting with history, and about recognizing that value is created when rarity, demand, and passion intersect. So the next time you see a penny, do not dismiss it as worthless change, because hidden among the billions of ordinary examples might just be one extraordinary error that could change your life forever. Next, 2000 1 cent USA coin. Today we are going to talk about one such remarkable case, the 2000 1 cent coin, a coin that originally carried just a single cent face value, but because of its incredible errors and mistakes, it ended up being valued at over $1 million. A story that amazes both casual observers and serious numismatists. So sit tight, because in this journey, we will go through everything from how the coin was produced, the various kinds of minting errors that occurred, why those mistakes are so rare, how collectors evaluate such coins, and why the 2000 penny has become such a sought-after treasure in the coin collecting world. And to start with, we need to understand that the Denver Mint, marked by the D Mint mark, produced billions of pennies in the year 2000, mostly using the copper-plated zinc planchets that had been standard since 1982. So normally one would expect these coins to be completely common and virtually worthless beyond their face value. Yet among these massive mintages, a few slipped through with striking errors that dramatically increased their rarity and desirability. And when we talk about errors, we are referring to mistakes that occur during the minting process, such as double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, die caps, transitional planchet mistakes, and other highly unusual production flaws, each of which can lead to a coin that looks noticeably different from the billions of regular examples. And in the case of the 2000D penny, collectors have documented some extraordinary examples of doubling in the lettering and numbers, particularly noticeable in the date, the Liberty, inscription, and the "In God We Trust" motto. Doubling errors occur when a coin die strikes the design twice in slightly misaligned positions, creating what looks like a shadow or duplicate impression on the coin. And depending on how dramatic this doubling is, the coin can be worth hundreds, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But when a coin like the 2000D shows multiple extreme error combinations, such as doubling paired with an off-center strike, or being struck on the wrong planchet entirely, the value multiplies astronomically. And one particularly famous 2000D penny was discovered to have been struck on a foreign planchet, believed to be meant for another denomination, resulting in a coin that was lighter in weight and slightly different in diameter than normal. And since planchets are carefully regulated at the mint, the existence of such a mistake indicates an extraordinary mishap and adds immense value. And beyond wrong planchets, there are also off-metal errors where a coin meant to be a copper-plated zinc cent instead gets struck on a leftover copper planchet or even on a dime planchet, causing odd thickness, coloration, and weight. And these kinds of anomalies draw collectors in because they represent a literal 1 in a billion scenario. And then we have off-center strikes where the coin fails to align properly under the die, leading to partial blank areas and incomplete designs. Some off-center strikes still display the date and mint mark clearly, and these are the ones that attract huge premiums because identification is crucial for collectors. And when you combine the year 2000D with such striking errors, you suddenly have a penny that no longer behaves like a penny but rather like a rare artifact from history, one that can easily command values in the 6 and 7 figures at auction. And indeed, one of these coins did sell for around $1 million because it combined an extreme off-metal planchet error, dramatic doubling, and clear, visible date and mint mark, which is a dream scenario for error coin collectors. And let's also remember that value is driven by rarity, demand, and condition. So the coin in question was preserved in nearly uncirculated or uncirculated condition, meaning it had very little wear and retained its original luster. And when third-party grading companies like PCGS or NGC certify such a coin and assign it a high grade, the value skyrockets even more because it assures buyers of authenticity and quality. And another factor that made the 2000D penny so valuable was the era in which it was minted, because by 2000 the U.S. Mint had refined most of its processes to prevent such glaring errors. So when a major mistake occurred, it was extremely unusual compared to earlier decades, making modern errors stand out all the more. And collectors today are fascinated by coins that shouldn't exist, coins that defy the standards of production. And that's exactly what the 2000D penny represents, an impossible survivor that somehow slipped through the strict quality control of the modern mint. And to give more context, let's explore the possibilities of errors that could exist for the 2000D penny, and why each adds layers of value. First, doubled dies, as mentioned, can create spectacular visual appeal, especially when seen without magnification. Second, repunched mint marks where the D was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions before the switch to hub mint marks in later years. Third, transitional errors, where the coin might accidentally be struck on a leftover planchet from a previous metal composition. Fourth, broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal while still showing full design details. Fifth, die clashes where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly images of design elements imprinted onto the coin in places they shouldn't be. Sixth, cut errors where a piece of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin. 7th, multiple strikes where a coin is struck more than once by the dies, creating overlapping images. And 8th, rotated dies where the obverse and reverse designs don't align properly. And all these errors when found on a 2000D penny are magnified in value because of how modern the coin is and how scarce significant errors are for that year. And let's not forget that the historical backdrop also matters, because the year 2000 was the dawn of a new millennium. So coins from this year already carry symbolic weight for collectors who like items connected to milestone years. So when you combine the milestone factor with massive errors, you get something truly iconic. And collectors across the world compete fiercely for ownership, often driving auction prices into the millions. And when such a coin is offered at public auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, the bidding wars can be intense, with wealthy collectors and institutions pushing values higher and higher. And that's exactly what happened with the 2000D penny that realized $1 million. It stood as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a coin that embodies rarity, error, modern minting curiosity, and symbolic significance. And the story of this coin continues to inspire treasure hunters everywhere, encouraging people to check their change, look through rolls of pennies from the bank, or dig into old jars of coins, because you never know when a simple-looking penny could actually be $1 million rarity. And while not every 2000D penny will be worth such astronomical amounts, even common errors from this year can bring respectable returns, sometimes hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on severity and condition. And that fact fuels the excitement for collectors and everyday people alike, because the idea that hidden wealth could be sitting in your pocket change is one of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting, and the 2000D penny story perfectly demonstrates how much possibility exists in the smallest of denominations, reminding us that rarity is not always about gold or silver, but about mistakes, anomalies, and the unique quirks of production. And when we think about the journey of that $1 million coin, from a mundane strike at the Denver Mint to surviving unnoticed until discovered and certified, to finally hitting the auction block and shocking the numismatic world, it feels almost like a fairy tale, but one rooted in reality, a tale of how accidents at the mint can create treasures that redefine what we think a coin can be worth. And that is why we continue to research, explore, and share these stories, because each one keeps the spirit of numismatics alive and keeps collectors searching for the next big discovery. So always remember to keep an eye out for 2000D pennies, especially those with doubling, off-center strikes, strange weights, odd colors, or unusual design elements. Last 2010D Lincoln penny. Thank you for joining us today, because you are about to hear one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, a story that proves beyond a doubt that even the most ordinary-looking coin can turn into a life-changing treasure. And today we are focusing on the 2010D Lincoln cent, a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, something you might overlook on the sidewalk or toss into a jar without a second thought. But thanks to astonishing minting mistakes and rare errors, one specific example of this coin has achieved an unbelievable market value of $3 million. And in this long deep dive, we are going to explore in extreme detail exactly what makes such a coin so special, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums, how these minting errors occur, what kinds of mistakes might be present on a 2010D penny, what the possibilities are for variations and error types, and why it is always worth paying attention to the change in your pocket, because you never know when a fortune could be hiding in plain sight. And to begin with, let us step back to 2010, when the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents as part of the regular coinage of the United States. These coins were part of the Shield Reverse Design series introduced that very year after the Lincoln Bicentennial Reverse series of 2009. The obverse carried Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln that had been used since 1909, while the reverse introduced a bold new design featuring a Union shield with 13 vertical stripes representing the original states joined under a single horizontal bar symbolizing federal unity, with a large inscription 1 cent across the banner, and United States of America above. This was a symbolic design choice to represent national unity after the 4 commemorative reverses of 2009, and billions of these coins rolled off the presses. But in that massive wave of copper-plated zinc cents struck at the Denver Mint, one stood out. One escaped with errors so spectacular and so unlikely that it went from being worth 1 cent to $3 million. And to understand how such an incredible leap in value is possible, we need to understand the categories of mint errors that collectors crave, because each type of error adds a layer of rarity and value. Starting with double die errors, which occur when a working die is impressed more than once with a hub, but not perfectly aligned, producing doubling on the design elements, such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, the date 2010, or the details of Lincoln's portrait. And when this doubling is dramatic and clear, it becomes instantly desirable. Then there are off-center strikes which happen when the planchet is not seated correctly in the coin press, causing part of the design to be missing while a crescent of blank metal remains. And the most valuable are those where the coin is off-center yet still retains a full date. Next, we have broad strikes which occur when the restraining collar fails, allowing the coin metal to expand outward and form a distorted piece larger than normal without a defined rim. Then there are wrong planchet errors, among the most spectacular, which happen when a coin is struck on a blank mint for another denomination or even a foreign coin. So a 2010 D cent struck on a dime planchet or foreign blank would be immediately apparent by weight, diameter, and color. Another major error category is mule coins, where 2 dies that should never have been paired are accidentally struck together, such as a cent obverse with a dime reverse or some other mismatched pairing. And when authentic, these are among the most valuable error coins in the world. Then there are clipped planchets where part of the blank was missing before the strike, leaving curved or straight clips that are easily visible, die breaks or die cracks that create raised lines or blobs of metal, cuts which are missing portions of the design caused by a broken die, and strike-through errors where foreign objects like grease, wire, or cloth get between the die and planchet, leaving unusual imprints. All of these error types exist on Lincoln cents and each can drastically affect value, but the $3 million 2010 D cent was not just any ordinary error. It was an astonishing convergence of multiple major mistakes rolled into one, making it a truly unique specimen. This legendary coin displayed dramatic doubling on the obverse, with strong double die evidence on the inscriptions "I in God We Trust" and "Liberty," as well as a partial doubling of Lincoln's eye and beard details, making it visually striking. It was also struck significantly off-center, leaving a portion of the blank planchet visible while still showing the date 2010 and the Denver Mint Mark D, ensuring authentication of its origin. Further analysis revealed that it was struck on the wrong planchet, possibly one intended for a foreign coin distributed by the U.S. Mint during that time, which gave it a weight that did not match the standard 2.5 grams of a copper-plated zinc cent, and on top of that the collar failed during striking, producing a broad strike appearance where the edges expanded outward slightly beyond normal specifications, creating a wide flan look. This combination of double die, off-center strike, wrong planchet, and broad strike made the coin essentially one of a kind. A freak accident of the minting process that simply should not exist, and yet it did, and once it was authenticated by leading grading services such as PCGS or NGC, the numismatic world erupted in excitement because collectors understood that this was not just another error, but a masterpiece of minting chaos, a unique survivor that combined so many anomalies it transcended ordinary collecting and became a true piece of American coinage history. When the coin finally appeared at public auction, the bidding war was fierce, with advanced collectors, investors, and even institutions competing for the chance to own this once-in-a-lifetime rarity, and the final hammer price stunned the world as it closed at $3 million, instantly elevating the 2010 descent into the pantheon of numismatic legends alongside famous rarities, like the 1913 Liberty nickel, the 1804 silver dollar, and the 1943 copper cent. And this demonstrates why people are so passionate about searching through their pocket change and bank rolls, because it proves that unimaginable treasures are still out there, and that the most common and overlooked coins can hold secrets of staggering value. Now let's consider why collectors pay such sums. Rarity is the cornerstone of value in numismatics, and in the case of the $3 million 2010 D penny, its uniqueness cannot be overstated. It is the combination of multiple dramatic errors all occurring together that creates this level of rarity. And rarity paired with demand creates value. Advanced collectors seek coins that are not only rare but that also tell a story. And this coin tells a story of chance, imperfection, and survival. It speaks of how even with modern quality control technology at the mint, mistakes slip through. And when those mistakes are extraordinary, they create legendary rarities. Another aspect to consider is the visual impact, because collectors are drawn to coins where the errors are obvious and dramatic. Subtle doubling or minor off-center strikes might carry modest premiums, but when doubling is bold, off-centering is dramatic, and the planchet is visibly wrong, then the coin becomes a showpiece that can be displayed with pride. And that visual drama combined with uniqueness explains why bidding climbs so high, and the possibilities extend beyond this one legendary coin, because countless other 2010 D cents exist with lesser errors, and while they may not command millions, they can still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. A simple off-center strike with a full date can fetch strong premiums. A well-defined double die can become a highly sought-after variety, and wrong planchet errors are always in high demand, which is why it pays to examine your change carefully, because small mistakes can mean big value. So what can you do if you want to hunt for treasures like this? First, familiarize yourself with the appearance of common errors by studying reference books and online databases of known varieties. Use a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to examine details closely. Weigh coins on a precise scale to check for off-weight planchets, and keep an eye out for anything unusual. And if you suspect you have found something rare, the best next step is to have it authenticated and graded by a major third-party service, because certification establishes legitimacy and provides a protective holder that increases market confidence.